All right, hello everybody. This is lesson 3.3b, and what we're going to be doing today is solving two-step equations. So from video A, we were just solving one-step equations, learning the basic steps for how to solve an equation. And now for lesson B, we're getting to a little bit more complicated equations that require more than one step. Okay, so if we look at our I can statement, I can solve two-step equations using multiple operations. Okay, now let's take a look at this. When solving two-step equations, you mostly work backwards from the order of operation. So we have spent our entire educational careers learning this, PEMDAS, very, very important. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to do that backwards. So you've always been told to do parentheses first, then exponents, then your multiplication and division, then your addition and subtraction. Now with solving equations, I'm going to want you to do your subtraction and addition before you do your multiplication and division. Okay, so let's take a look at what that is going to look like. Oops, went too far. Here we go. So if you see, I have 2x minus 15 equals 17. Okay, this right here, show all steps. This is very, very important for solving equations. This is how we don't get messed up. Okay, so I need to show all my work. Now, before, we would just have 2x equals 17. But now I have this minus 15 here. I have multiple steps to solve this equation. I may not be able to figure out what x is just off the top of my head. That's why I need to show my steps. Okay, so what I'm going to do, as I mentioned before, PEMDAS would tell us, okay, well, let's do my addition, my multiplication and division first. So I would divide by 2 on both sides because this is 2 times x. Division's the opposite of multiplication, so I should divide. That's what PEMDAS would tell us to do. But we're going to do the opposite of the order of operations. So what I want to do is I want to do all my addition and subtraction first. Okay, so if I notice I have this minus 15 right here, so I want to do the opposite of minus 15. And the opposite, because I want to cancel that out, and the opposite would be plus 15. So I can add 15 to both sides. Remember, whatever you do to the left side of the equal sign, you have to do to the right side of the equal sign. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. Negative 15 plus 15, that equals 0. That cancels out. That's the whole reason why we added 15, was we wanted to get rid of it. 17 plus 15, that's 32. So what I'm left with is now, instead of having just x, I still have 2x equals 32. Okay, so this looks like what we did from video A, okay, with one-step equations. Now I just have 2 times something equals 32. In order to figure out what that something is, I'm just going to divide both sides by 2, because again, this is 2 times x, so the opposite of multiplication is division. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so they cancel each other out. I'm left with x equals 32 divided by 2 is 16. X equals 16. So now what I'm going to do, just to double check to make sure that this is correct, I'm going to take this and plug it back in for x and see if this makes sense. So I have 2 times x, and so we're going to plug in 16 for x, minus 15 equals 17. So now I can use my order of operations. This is no longer an equation. This is just an expression. 2 times 16 is 32, minus 15 equals 17. 32 minus 15 is 17, so I get 17 equals 17. That's a true statement, so that shows that I did the problem correctly. X does equal 16. Okay, so let's look at another one here. Negative 10 minus 4x equals 34. Again, I need to show all my steps. So the first thing I look at is I have just negative 10 by itself, then I have a minus 4x, so here's multiplication right here, equals 34. So what I want to do is, again, my ultimate goal is to get x by itself. I want to get rid of this negative 10 and this negative 4 somehow. The only way I can do that is by doing the opposite operation. So this is a negative 10. In order to get rid of negative 10, I can add 10. Okay, because negative 10 plus 10, that equals 0. It cancels it out. That's the whole reason why I'm doing it. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other to keep the balance. So I'm left with negative 4x, because again, these cancel each other out. So I bring down my negative 4x. Notice how I have that sign with it. Negative 4x equals 34 plus 10 is 44. Okay, Now we're back to just a one-step equation. I have a multiplication problem, negative 4 times x equals 44. So to figure out what x is, I'm going to do the opposite, which is just divide by negative 4. So I'm going to do that to both sides. Okay, negative 4 divided by negative 4, that's just a positive 1. So those cancel each other out. I'm left with x equals negative 11. And that is my final answer. Okay, again, let's just check it by plugging it in for x. So if I do this, whoops, here we go. I would have negative 10 minus 4 times x. I'm having a hard time with this pen today. Times x. X is negative 11. Okay, so let's see what this is. So first I need to do my multiplication. Negative 4 times negative 11, that would be positive 44. So now I have negative 10 plus positive 44. I have different signs, so I'm going to just subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the bigger number. 44 is a bigger number, so it will be positive. 44 minus 10 is 34. And look, it was supposed to equal 34, so I know that x equals negative 11 is correct. Okay. Now, if we notice, I have x over 9 plus 5 equals 11. Again, let's do the addition and subtraction first, get rid of these numbers so we can get x by itself. So let's focus on getting rid of this 5 first. So if this is a plus 5, to get rid of it, I need to do the opposite. I need to subtract 5. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. This x over 9, this doesn't change. Okay, this is still there. But I still have my x over 9. This canceled each other out. That's why we did it. Equals 11 minus 5 is 6. So now I have something, x, divided by 9 equals 6. Because this is division, the opposite of division is multiplication. So I need to find a way to get rid of this 9. And to do that, I can just multiply by 9. Because if I multiply by 9, I'm going to get 9x over 9. 9 over 9 is just 1. Okay, these cancel each other out. Okay, and whatever I do to one side of my equation, I have to do to the other side of my equation. So I'm left with x equals 6 times 9, which is 54. Okay, so there's my final answer. Again, take it, plug it in to make sure you're correct. We can make mistakes. This is how we check our work. Okay, so I have 54 divided by 9 plus 5 should equal 11. 54 divided by 9. Well, 9 times what equals 54? Oh, okay, that's 6. So 6 plus 5 equals 11. 11 does equal 11. So this is a true statement. We're good. Real quick, you guys, the number clue. The last digit of the number is a factor of 42. So by factor, I mean if you multiply it by something else, it'll be 42. And it's also not 1. So the last digit is not a 1, and it's a factor of 42. Okay. Last example. I have this is a little hard to see, so let's draw this in here. 2 over 3 minus 1, 2 over 3 times x minus 1/3 equals 1. It's no different with fractions, you guys. We still have to follow the same steps. So I need to get rid of this 2/3 and this negative 1/3 somehow. So I need to do the opposite operations. Okay. So because I have minus 1/3, I'm just going to add 1/3. Again, negative 1/3 plus 1/3, that cancels each other out. I need to do it to this side as well. So now I have 2/3 x equals, because remember, just bring it straight down. Nothing's happened to that yet. Equals 1 plus 1/3. Well, let's work this out real quick. 1 is the same thing as 3/3. So I have 3/3 plus 1/3. That's going to equal 4/3. And you know what I'm going to do, just to make this my life easier? I'm going to keep this as an improper fraction for now. Okay. So I have 2/3 x equals 4/3. Now I need to get rid of this 2/3. Okay. This is 2/3 times x. So what I need to do is I need to divide by 2/3. Divide by 2/3. Because 2/3 divided by 2/3 is 1. That's going to cancel each other out. I'm left with x equals, here, let's work this out, 4/3 divided by 2/3. Remember, we're supposed to keep, change, flip. So this really becomes 4/3 times, let's flip it, 3/2. And now, let's cross reduce here. Let's see. These 3's cancel each other out. Okay, and then if I divide both of these by 2, I'll get 1, 2. So 2 times 1, and then just 1. So it's left with 2 over 1, which is just 2. So I get x equals 2. Okay, and then I would go back, plug this in to make sure it works, and I would find out that it does. Okay, but just for the sake of time, we'll stop right there. Okay, you guys, so the biggest thing that I want to point out with this lesson is, let's go back all the way to the beginning, is we're not doing our multiplication and division first. We're doing the addition and subtraction before we do the multiplication and division. Okay, so do the addition and subtraction first before we do the multiplication and division, and that'll help us solve for x. Our ultimate goal is just to get x by itself, so we have to get rid of these other numbers. Okay, and by doing that, we need to do the opposite operation. I hope this helped you guys, and good luck on your assignments. Okay.